In a small town called Ann Arbor, in the state of Michigan, a high school student named David finishes another normal day at school. Before leaving, he gathers his courage to do something special. David is deeply in love with his classmate, Millie. He gives her a small gift he worked hard to get, a beautiful snow globe from Paris. Millie smiles and thanks him, clearly touched by the gesture, but the moment doesn't last long. A bully named Mark suddenly shows up. With a rude grin, he grabs the snow globe from Millie's hands. David gets angry and asks Mark to give it back, but Mark doesn't listen. Instead, he cruelly throws the snow globe into a frozen lake nearby. Without thinking, David rushes to save the gift. He steps onto the ice and manages to grab the snow globe, but suddenly, the ice beneath him begins to crack. Within seconds, the ground breaks apart, and David falls into the freezing water. Millie screams and tries to run toward him, but Mark stops her, saying she'll only make things worse. Under the icy water, David panics. He can't breathe. He feels like he's about to die. Then something impossible happens. In the blink of an eye, David suddenly appears inside a hallway of a library somewhere in the city. He is soaked, shaking, and completely confused. He has no idea how he got there, but he knows one thing: he's alive. Still in shock, David makes his way back home. His life has never been easy. His mother left him when he was young, and since then he's lived with his father, William, a man who treats him badly and shows him no love. When David reaches home, his father immediately notices that he's soaking wet. William demands to know what happened. David is too shaken to answer. He walks into his room and locks the door behind him. This only makes his father angrier. William storms after him and starts shouting. Moments later, William loses control and breaks down the door, but the second he steps inside, he freezes in shock. David is gone. At the very same time, David suddenly appears back inside the public library. That's when it finally hits him. He didn't just escape the lake by luck. He can teleport. He can move anywhere in an instant. Still confused, David tries to leave the library. He walks toward the exit doors, but they are completely locked. Frustration builds up inside him, and in that moment of anger, he suddenly teleports again. This time he lands inside his own bedroom. Now David understands the truth. This power could change his life forever. For the first time, he sees a way out of his miserable home. He quickly packs his things and decides to leave town. But before going, there's one last place he needs to visit: Millie's house. Millie is still completely broken. She believes David died in the lake. Lying in her bed, she cries non-stop. Suddenly, she hears a noise coming from her garden. When she goes outside, she finds the snow globe David gave her, sitting there on the ground. She's confused, scared, and doesn't understand how it got there. Without saying goodbye, David leaves town and heads somewhere new. He rents a small hotel room and starts living on his own for the first time. Curious about his powers, David goes to the local town square to practice teleporting, but he's still a beginner. One wrong move sends him straight into a tree, and he crashes hard to the ground. Later, David returns to his hotel room and starts looking through his tourist guide. He begins jumping to famous places shown in the book, testing his powers again and again. Suddenly, David teleports into a building and quickly realizes something shocking. This is a place he used to visit before. That's when he understands it clearly. He can teleport anywhere he has seen or remembers. Now confident in his power, David comes up with a risky plan. He heads to the city bank during the day and calmly talks to a security guard, asking to be shown the customer restroom. As he walks through the building, David carefully looks around. When he passes the vault area, he studies it closely, trying to memorize every detail. That night, David prepares for his first big crime. After gathering his tools, he teleports straight into one of the bank's bathrooms. From there, he uses his teleporting power to jump directly inside the vault. Within minutes, he starts stealing huge amounts of money. David repeats this process again and again at different banks. Over time, he collects more money than he ever imagined. With this wealth, David buys everything he once only dreamed about. As the years pass, his powers grow stronger, and he becomes incredibly rich. He now lives in a massive luxury apartment, teleporting from room to room just for fun. But even with such amazing power, David doesn't try to help anyone. He only cares about himself and enjoying life. He uses his abilities to travel wherever he wants, surfing on empty beaches, standing on top of ancient monuments in Egypt, and taking in the beauty of the world like no one else can. Meanwhile, deep inside a forest, a man named Roland leads a squad of armed agents. They move quietly through the trees, setting electric wire traps. When someone touches the wires, they are instantly shocked and captured. It is soon revealed that these men are hunters who track down jumpers, humans with the power to teleport. Once a jumper is caught, they are killed without mercy. That very night, David returns to his luxury apartment, thinking he's safe, but the moment he steps inside, he's ambushed. Roland is already there, waiting for him. Roland begins questioning David and reveals a terrifying truth. He has been tracking David for over 8 years. David tries to escape by teleporting, but Roland shocks him with his weapon. The electricity blocks his power, making him unable to jump. With David trapped, Roland attacks again, demanding to know how he managed to survive for so long without being caught. Desperate, David looks toward his photo wall, hoping to teleport away. But the electricity running through his body weakens him. Instead of escaping, he ends up crashing onto the second floor of the apartment. Using a ladder made from bookshelves, Roland chases him and hits him with another powerful shock. He keeps asking the same question. How has David stayed hidden all these years? David doesn't answer. Angry, Roland throws him off the second floor and prepares to finish him with his staff. David barely dodges the deadly strike. Just as he tries to escape, one of Roland's traps fires and locks an electric cable around David's body. Thinking fast, David uses the last of his strength to teleport straight into his hidden vault. He grabs a tool, cuts the wire, and finally jumps away, escaping the hunter. Furious, Roland contacts the Jumpers Hunters Communication Center. He orders every agent to be alerted and commands a full search for David to begin immediately. The next day, shaken but alive, David decides to visit Millie's house. Millie's mother is shocked and happy to see him standing there. After welcoming him inside, David asks about Millie. Her mother tells him that Millie now works at a bar in town. Hearing this, David heads there right away. When he sees Millie, he realizes she has moved on and is living her life after everything that happened. Feeling unsure, David turns to leave. But before he can go far, Mark suddenly appears. He recognizes David and starts shouting, drawing attention. Trying not to cause trouble, David attempts to walk away, but Mark keeps yelling. Because of the noise, Millie notices them and rushes over. As they talk, Mark starts insulting Millie again. David loses his temper. He punches Mark straight in the face. Mark fights back, dragging David outside. He beats him with punches and kicks, believing he has finally crushed his old enemy. Mark celebrates, thinking he's won, but in the next instant, David grabs him and teleports. In a blink, both of them appear inside a bank vault. Mark freezes in terror, not understanding what just happened. Begging for his life, he asks David to let him go. David leaves him there and teleports back to the bar to talk to Millie. Confused, Millie asks where David has been all these years. David lies, saying he got a great job at a bank and became rich. Then he tells her he's planning a trip to Rome. Knowing Millie has always dreamed of going there, he invites her to come along. Without hesitation, Millie agrees. Soon, the two arrive in Rome. Back home at a police station, Roland asks the chief to let him question Mark, who has filed a complaint against David. The chief refuses, saying Roland needs a federal warrant. Enraged, Roland knocks the officer unconscious and enters the interrogation room anyway. From Mark, Roland learns the truth. David is traveling with Millie, and they've just boarded a flight to Rome. In Rome, David and Millie visit the famous Colosseum. But when they arrive, a guard tells them the site is closed. Annoyed, David turns away from the guards. Using his power without anyone noticing, he opens a gate and invites Millie inside. Together, they explore the place alone. High above them, a mysterious young man watches from the rooftops. Suddenly, David is stopped by this stranger, who introduces himself as Griffin. He reveals that he has the same teleporting power. Shocked, David asks how this is possible. Griffin explains that even though jumpers are powerful, they are never truly safe. Hunters are always watching them. Just then, 2 agents appear. To avoid capture, David teleports to the upper level. Griffin stays behind, ready to fight with his baseball bat. Even though David escapes at first, he gets caught in a trap and is pulled back into the center of the Colosseum. Realizing Millie could be in danger, Griffin moves fast. He teleports around the arena, slamming one hunter into a wall and throwing the other off the rocks, knocking him out. After the fight, Griffin reveals the truth. These hunters are called the Paladins, a group dedicated to wiping out every jumper on Earth. Now exposed in the open arena, Griffin decides to flee. David follows his teleport trail, but Griffin angrily tells him to stay away and stop following him. Later, when David returns to Millie and tries to leave with her, police officers stop them and arrest both of them. At the station, Millie begs the officers to release David, but they ignore her and tell her to stay quiet and wait in the lobby. During David's questioning, The officer suddenly gets a message that the local deputy has arrived. He leaves David alone in the room. That's when something unbelievable happens. A woman appears in front of David. It's his mother, Mary, who vanished from his life years ago. She calmly unlocks his handcuffs and hands him the keys. Mary orders David to leave right now and warns him not to take Millie with him. If he does, she says Millie could be killed. Confused and desperate for answers, David tries to follow his mother, but a police officer steps in and tries to grab him. To get rid of the officer, David teleports him straight to a statue in Egypt, then instantly jumps back to the station. Reuniting with Millie, David tells her they need to leave the city immediately. Millie is confused and asks why he's acting so strange, but David refuses to explain. They quickly pack their bags and rush to the airport. Before the flight, David tells Millie he can't go with her. He doesn't want to drag her into his dangerous life. Heartbroken and confused, Millie boards the plane alone. Back in Ann Arbor, Roland goes to David's old home. William answers the door. Roland claims he's a federal agent and begins questioning him about David's location. William says he hasn't seen his son in 8 years and that the police were never able to find him. When asked about David's mother, William says she left when David was only 5 and never contacted them again. Meanwhile, Griffin is back at his place, playing video games next to the lifeless body of one of the Paladins he defeated earlier. Suddenly, David appears and demands answers. He asks why jumpers are hunted when they've done nothing wrong. Griffin explains the dark truth. Since medieval times, jumpers have been hunted by the Paladins. These people believe, because of their twisted beliefs, that jumpers should never exist. Griffin reveals something even worse. The Paladins have wiped out entire families just to track down their targets. Hearing this, David panics. He instantly teleports to his father's house, but when he arrives, his heart sinks. His father is no longer alive. Without wasting time, David uses his powers to rush him to the hospital. The next day, David returns to Griffin's place. Griffin casually says he just finished another hunt and dumped a Paladin in the Atlantic Ocean to be eaten by sharks. David asks to see Griffin's photos so he can track down Roland and protect Millie, but Griffin stops him, warning that Roland is far more dangerous than he seems. Still, David insists they work together. He says as long as Roland is alive, Millie will never be safe. Griffin refuses. He tells David to stay away and handle his own problems. Ignoring the warning, David uses his power and follows Griffin's teleport trail. In seconds, he lands inside the kitchen of a Japanese restaurant. After stepping outside, he continues following Griffin through the busy streets of Tokyo. David tries to convince him again, saying that together they would be unstoppable and could finally take down Roland. Griffin still says no and teleports into a car dealership. The two steal a luxury car and race through the city, teleporting the vehicle through traffic in wild moves. During the ride, Griffin shares a story about another jumper who tried to destroy an entire building but used too much power and died mid-jump. After the long night, Griffin finally agrees to help David find Millie. But when they teleport to the airport, they realize her flight landed over an hour ago. They split up. Griffin goes to grab his weapons, while David rushes to Millie's house. When David finds her, he finally tells the truth. He admits he never worked at a bank and begs her to leave with him immediately. At that moment, David senses danger. Roland has arrived. Without hesitation, David teleports himself and Millie to Griffin's hideout. Soon after, a group of Paladins break in. Using a tracking spray, Roland finds David's teleport trail. The hunters activate a high-tech machine that reopens teleport holes left by jumpers. Through the portal, the Paladins reach Griffin's base and begin searching the area. David and Griffin hide behind thick concrete pillars, trying not to be seen. While hiding, David notices a photo of his mother. The distraction costs him. One of the Paladins spots him, and Roland captures David using electric traps. As David lies helpless, Roland steps closer and raises his dagger. David asks why the Paladins hate jumpers so much when they've done nothing wrong. Roland coldly answers that jumpers will eventually be corrupted by their powers and become a threat to humanity. Just in time, Griffin attacks with a flamethrower, forcing the Paladins to retreat and saving David's life. But Roland survives. He charges again and traps Griffin with an electric cable. Confident he has won, Roland reveals a shocking truth. He was the one who killed Griffin's family. Hearing this, Griffin explodes with rage. He launches a brutal teleport attack, smashing Roland through a cave wall and blasting him outside. Meanwhile, Millie hides and searches for David. Griffin escapes again and launches a massive counterattack, teleporting a bus from London into the desert, crushing Roland and destroying the entire base. The chaos leaves Millie in shock. To protect her, Griffin pushes the Paladins back once more with fire. Roland barely escapes through the portal he opened earlier, reappearing at Millie's house. Furious and refusing to stop, David follows him, continuing the fight across the location. Millie finally frees David. After apologizing, David prepares to take her home. That's when Griffin returns, saying he stole the portal machine. The hunters are now trapped on the other side. But just before the portal closes, Roland fires one last cable. It wraps around Millie and drags her through the rift. David panics and shouts that he's going after her. But Griffin stops him and reveals a shocking plan. He wants to send a bomb to Millie's house, where all the Paladins are gathering. Realizing Griffin has lost control and could kill Millie, David grabs the explosive and runs. Griffin chases him, and the two former allies begin a brutal fight. They clash on top of an Egyptian pyramid, then chase each other across massive city bridges, teleporting non-stop. Their fight opens cracks across the world as they battle for the detonator. David finally teleports to the top of a tall building and throws the device toward the ground. But Griffin refuses to give up and dives after it. The fight continues in the sky. They crash into a huge pool, barely surviving the fall. Next, David jumps to the middle of the Arctic Ocean. Griffin appears in a vehicle and slams into him, sending both into the freezing water. In seconds, they teleport again, this time into an active battlefield. Explosions rage around them as Griffin grabs the detonator. Before leaving, he says goodbye to David. As the battle destroys nearby power towers, David grabs Griffin and forces him to teleport into the middle of high-voltage power lines. This time, the fight is over. David returns to Ann Arbor, determined to save Millie. He sneaks toward her house, but it's a trap. The Paladins capture him, wrapping electric cables around his body. Fueled by rage and pain, David unleashes his full power. The ground shakes as Millie's house begins to collapse. Pushing himself to the limit, David teleports, taking part of the house with him, and crashes into the city river. Water tears the structure apart, threatening to drown them both. Millie frees herself and swims to David. To save her, David teleports the remains of the house into the public library, destroying it completely. Gasping for air, Millie crawls toward David. But suddenly, Roland rises from the rubble. David moves Millie to safety, then faces Roland alone. He tells him that he will never become the kind of jumper the Paladins fear. Instead of killing Roland, David spares him, teleporting him into the middle of a massive desert, thousands of miles away from anyone. Days later, David visits his mother and finally asks why she abandoned him. Mary reveals the truth. She was always a Paladin. When she realized David was a jumper at just 5 years old, she left so she wouldn't be forced to kill her own son. She asks David to be careful from now on and says she'll give him another chance. With the danger behind him, David reunites with Millie. Free at last, the two prepare to start a new journey, traveling the world together. So what did you think of this movie? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the recap, don't forget to like and subscribe for more movie stories. See you next time on Next Prime Recap.